Call me a Bonanza through. I'm D and I'm like, hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage. Today and only today we are here, that's right, to talk about Donkey Kong Bananza. I have beaten the game. I have beaten pretty much most of the post game. You know, I still have leftover bananas, but for the most part, I have done really everything I need to I feel like form my opinion on the game. And of course, I am going to segment this video. You know, I'm going to timestamp spoiler-free thoughts and spoiler-filled thoughts because I really do think to really give my thoughts on everything and why I love this game. I really want to get into like the little weeds of things and everything, but don't worry, I will have a little spoiler-free section in the beginning. But I feel like if you're watching a video like this, like a week and a half or two after launch, you probably just want to hear like and yap about everything that happened. And of course, if you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing to your boy Locking In, and let's get right into this. So Donkey Kong Bananza, this game is so interesting because this is a like AAA Nintendo game, right? Like this is a scale of an Odyssey, right? This is a big deal. This is like a Zelda tier for them, but it's so unexpected because we just haven't had that for DK in so long, right? And also like the marketing cycle was so short, right? Like again, this game was announced like 4 months ago, not even 3 months ago, right? And now it's out. And so I feel like leading up to the marketing of it, I didn't realize how much of a big deal this was gonna be. I mean, I figured obviously with all the articles, you know, saying how it's the Odyssey team, and you know, from trailers you can tell it was very much Odyssey team from like even the fonts they were using, right? Like it felt like they were going for a big deal, but the hype for it wasn't processing in my mind. You know, I feel like with a game like Odyssey, there was almost a year of buildup, right, within trailers, and obviously like it being a big thing, you know, big revitalization of, you know, an open world, open area Mario being back again, collectathon style, right? Or even stuff like Astrobot, you know, that was announced in the summer leading up to it, felt really good. Shadow Generations, like this one just had a really short marketing cycle, which made it so that like the excitement was there, but you almost didn't have time to really understand how big the project was. But it was also a good thing because then they couldn't spoil too much. But then that DK Direct happened, and that really, I feel like the Donkey Kong Direct is really the moment everyone was like, oh shit, this is gonna be special. You know what I mean? Like that really sold so many people on the game, and here it is, and I have beaten it, and I am happy to say that this game is amazing. Like I love this game. I do have a lot to talk about, right? I know people are gonna ask about Odyssey comparisons because that's like that's been such a overlapping conversation with the game. People are comparing it to Odyssey a lot, and I feel like, you know, this game does a lot on its own, but I understand why people are making the comparisons, not just because it's the same dev team, but because it's the same structure pretty much. So DK Bananza, you know, a little spoiler free section, I really do love it, right? I think they did a really damn good job of making basically an Odyssey sequel starring DK. I mean, that's what this game feels like to me. This game is like Odyssey to the core, and when I mean that, I really mean that. Like I mean from, you know, getting the bananas as your moons, right, from the sort of open area nature of the game to the different costumes to the different types of collectibles. Like it feels like that game to the core, right? And that I think is a good thing, right? I think it does a lot in that sense with DK, but also very differently, right? And there's so many aspects of the game I want to go over and talk about, and I feel like matter a lot to the platforming experience. And the first thing I want to talk about is actually the controls, right? Because that's always like a big thing with any platformer. At the end of the day, the real enjoyment, for me at least, comes from like, is the character like fun to play and move around, you know? And I think with DK, they did a damn good job, because I remember pre-launch being worried, like, man, like Mario's moveset is just so good in like Odyssey, right? You know, you can roll into a long jump, into a cappy toss, bounce onto the cappy, get a jump, toss cappy again, get some extra air time, right? Or you could do, you know, a ground pound, press A at the right time, get a higher jump, toss the hat. Like it felt really cool, you know what I mean? And it felt like you had a lot of movement options, and it felt really flexible. And so with DK, I was worried about, you know, how you're gonna really translate that for DK. Is he just kind of jumping and breaking stuff? We're gonna get into all the breaking stuff too, but I'm happy to say like DK's moveset became so addicting. The way they did it was just so good, right? Because in DK, you're often rolling, right? But you can roll into a jump, into a punch, into another roll in the air. You can use obviously obviously parts of the ground to do like a double jump, you know, the chunk jump or whatever. You know, I've seen crazy movement techs where people are like jump rolling with a block, you know, spamming like hits in the air with the block to get more extra airtime, and then tossing the block. Like, there's really cool shit you can do with the movement. I think that stuff matters. You know, I think really flexible movement is so much of the core of like what, you know, this Odyssey team, Mario team is able to do, and it's really fun. I mean, this is even just a thing about DK. Like, the old DK games are a little slower, like the original Donkey Kong Country games are a little bit slower in their movement, but they started really going all out when it came to DK. I feel like when Country Returns and Tropical Freeze happened, because if you guys have played those games have these like time trials, and if you watch people, they do crazy shit. Like, you'll see people doing flips into an enemy jump, into an enemy jump, into another flip jump. Like, people like movement tech in these kind of games, but I felt like for DK, like, they did a damn good job having a flexible moveset, especially considering this guy can climb anything, and there's no stamina meter. This is no Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom thing where you have a stamina meter that you have to upgrade. Like, you can literally climb everything, obviously, you know, barring areas that they clearly don't want you to climb, where, like, you know, the walls will basically be like oiled up, or something's wrong with them, so you can't really climb it. But for the most part, you can climb whatever you want, and obviously the big thing, you can break almost anything you want. And man, this mechanic, I gotta say, the whole breaking shit is so good. Like, that mechanic of breaking stuff and just destroying environments, it was so satisfying through the entire game. I mean, to this day, you know, obviously I'm saying that as if the game is old, you know, but like I am still finding myself just opening the game, and even though I don't need to because I've gotten more stuff, I just want to break shit just to get more gold, you know, just to find maybe some fossils, right, or find some fossil scrolls. Like, what's cool about the destruction is it's not just destroy things, it often feels like it leads you to something, right? I think that's what's most important in the game, because it could have just been like, hey, let's show off the destruction, but no, like, you often get something, you know, you'll get these scrolls that are underground that'll help you find fossils or even bananas, right? Sometimes you'll find bananas, sometimes you will skip entire like story sequences because you dug too deep, or you went around a corner that like you were supposed to talk to a character, but you mashed the wall behind him just so you can get to the next area. And I think stuff like that is cool. I think stuff like that that's designed for you to sort of enjoy the game your way, right? Like, I remember I got to a later area in the game, and I was supposed to go to the town, but I didn't know there was even a town, so I just kind of like dug myself downwards, and then like the main objective changed, like, hey, fight this thing, and I was like, oh shit, like, that's cool. Obviously, I still want to go to the town to get, like, you know, the NPC dialogue and stuff, but it's cool that the game just automatically goes like, all right, well, you skipped this step, you know, enjoy the next part, right? Because that's also another thing that's so good about the game is in Odyssey, right? In a game like Odyssey, you needed a specific amount of moons to move on to the next kingdom. In this game, that is not the case. The bananas, like the big collectible banana, the Banandium gems, they're completely optional. They are all entirely based on skill points, which we'll talk about that stuff. But yeah, this game has main objectives, and this kind of fixes the main issue I had with Odyssey, right? In Odyssey, a lot of people complain about the structure of the game because it doesn't feel like the kingdoms have like different acts to them. Like, obviously they do, like, you do fight a boss and then it'll tell you to do this and this, but the levels and areas don't evolve. Whereas in DK, whenever you go to a layer, like a main area, each main area has like 3 sub areas, right? 2 to 3 sub areas. We're like, all right, you'll finish the main one, you'll go down, boom, you're in a whole other sub layer, right? Or like, boom, you finish another area, you're in another sub layer. Like, some of these levels end up having like 3 or 4 sub layers, right? And that's really cool. You know what I mean? Like, I love that because, one, it makes it so that like you're actually, and it almost reminds me of 64, right? Where like you would finish a level, then when you'd go back to the level, it would have a different structure or galaxy in that sense. Like, that stuff is really fucking cool, right? I love that, you know, because that was something, again, that was a complaint about Odyssey. We're like, all right, I'm just in this area and I'm just getting stuff, but it's cool to, you know, do a story thing. Now you're in a completely different area within this zone, right? Now you're in an underground minecarting area, right? Now you're just in the boss area. Now you're in this kind of area. Like, it's really cool how they structure, you know, the story, unlock something. Don't even get I'm going to start on the story. Again, I'm going to talk about it in the spoiler part, but it was just so heartfelt, lovable, and caring. And I really do want to say, right, that I think this game did a damn good job of respecting Donkey Kong's legacy, right? This is not just like, this is a Mario game, but with Donkey Kong, like, it respects Donkey Kong's legacy. There is, you know, callbacks to the country games, to DK64, obviously, you know. There's callbacks to even some remnants of the Wii, you know, right? And all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of best. But you know what's kind of crazy about the game? Like, there's not a single vine. Like, there's no vines in this game at all, which is a really interesting choice. It's almost like they want to avoid it. And even the different areas you go to, right? Like, without spoiling, I guess the first 3 areas are like kind of like in the public eye. You got like Lagoon Lair, which is like your sort of basic area, and that area is really nice. And you've got these like nice white and yellow color palettes with the water. That's really good. You have the Hilltop Lair, which is sort of like this green, empty grass field. You got Canyon Lairs. Like, I thought the layers that they decided to go with were really cool. I don't know if there was like one. I guess there was like a few that really stood out, you know what I mean? But a lot of them like felt pretty just normal in their layout. But I did love just the themes they went with. Like, there's like an ice layer you go to, but it's all themed around like candy, right? Or, you know, like when you go to that area, like the sprinkles will drop, and even like when you're walking on the ground, it's like chocolate. Like, there's a lot of cool visual aesthetics that they do with the game. That's pretty cool. And like, the structure of the game is just so addicting, because you would go to an area, right, and you would just break stuff. And when you break stuff, you discover a banana, you discover a challenge room, you discover, you know, different characters hiding, right, in each different objective and different area. And what I loved about the game too is there are so many challenge areas, right? This is something that was tested on, experimented on a bit in Odyssey, and it's always been part of Donkey Kong's DNA, right? In Donkey Kong Country games, you could find like these secret areas where you would go in these secret rooms, just get a bunch of gold, and they, you know, honor that. They have that in this game, but they also have like the challenge rooms from Odyssey. If you remember in Odyssey, you would go to these different areas, and there would always be like 2 to 3 moons, and like 2 of the moons were like the basic, like, hey, you're getting through the challenge area, but one would be like really hard to get. And I really loved that this game had that. And yet some of those bananas were really difficult to get, because for the most part the game is pretty easy, right? I will say, like, just on a base note, the game is like pretty easy. Now, that's just kind of the Nintendo formula. A lot of the times, you know, like the base thing is easy to do, but it's getting everything. That's the big challenge. But the game definitely felt like easy sometimes in a bad sense, where like, dude, you would go to a boss fight and sometimes just you would turn to your Bananza form, and we haven't even talked about Bananza forms. You would turn to your Bananza form and just like bomb, 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 beat the boss, beat the boss, beat the boss, huge damage chunks, and then you defeat him. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, that was fast, right? And so there are definitely times where you're playing the game where you're like, oh, this is really easy. Oh, I just had to do this, right? You know, even getting some of the like bananas, it's just like, oh, I just broke this wall and I got it. And I think that's sort of something that, again, like I try in my mind to rationalize like that's Nintendo, but I did feel sometimes like some of these were easy to get, but that's not to say that a lot of them weren't difficult to get. You know, there will be sometimes you have to get a banana by finding these different characters and exploring the environment. There will be ones, you know, where you have to like use a specific chunk of rock to solve a puzzle to break through it and find the banana. Like, you can't just like break through every wall to get something. Like, they very clearly gate off certain bananas for you to find it. And so I felt like the game had a really healthy balance of like, all right, finding a good amount of bananas, doing story stuff. And what's really cool about the bananas is they solved a direct issue with Odyssey. Is in Odyssey, what has been the biggest complaint over the years when you've heard about this game is people be like, some of these moons are useless, right? Like, you'll step on the ground, get a moon, right? You'll go on top of a rooftop, there's just a moon chilling there, right? Like, and it, like, people always say it sort of devalues, you know, the getting a star moment from any Mario game, right? But I think for the most part, like, most of the moons are fine. They're basically a means for you to, you know, explore the environment. But I will agree that at some point there are ones where it's just like collect this to collect this. But what's cool about Bananza is, yes, there are definitely bananas where it is designed for like, hey, you're just kind of getting this to get this. But this game has an extensive skill tree. When I mean extensive, I mean extensive. Like, I'm saying, like, right now, as of me beating the game and doing the post game, I have over 600 bananas, and I can still upgrade stuff on my skill tree. Like, that's always a good thing that, like, you know, that's always a good thing with skill trees, because often games will do this thing where, like, you could kind of just get overpowered, right, you know, right away. And like, I would expect a game like this to have me fill in the skill tree by like world 2 or 3, and I don't have to worry about it. But like, to this point of the game where I'm done with the game, there are still stuff I can upgrade on the skill tree. I think that's really fucking cool, because one, it encourages you to want to get all the bananas, because you lead to, like, you know, basically an ultimate DK, right, where you have all these upgrades for all your forms and all your, you know, base stuff. But it's just really cool. And then, like, all the upgrades are pretty significant. Like, you have upgrades to your sonar, which is like this thing where, like, you can tap the ground and a sensor pops up so you can see things around you. There's stuff that increase the amount of hearts you have. There's stuff that give you new moves for your Bananza forms. Like, it's all really good stuff overall, right? And again, like, it all boils down to how much you care about the game, want to interact with the game, right? Because the more you're playing, the more you're getting these Bananza, you know, Banandiums, and the more you want to get in. The game has a second tier of collectible. They're fossils, right? They're effectively like the purple coin of the game. I think they're a little bit more enjoyable than the purple coins, because purple coins would have this issue where, like, if you couldn't find like 3 of them or 2 of them, you'd be like looking around like a psycho person, right? Whereas at least with the fossils, you can smack the ground for the sonar to go off and you'll detect fossils around you. You could buy scrolls that help you find the fossils. You can even buy scrolls to get the bananas, right? And the game has the Odyssey thing where you can buy a banana, but again, that stuff doesn't matter, because bananas aren't meant for you to progress. They're meant for you to get skill points. So if you for some reason have enough, you know, money to buy a bunch of, you know, bananas, and you just want to get your skill tree up, by all means, you know, but that's like not the way you're probably going to play the game. But listen, I really want to get into the game deeply, and to do that, I want to talk about spoilers. So to wrap up the spoiler-free part, the Bananza forms are really fucking cool, right? You have like the DK form, you have the ostrich, you have the zebra. What's cool about the forms, the first 3 forms of the game, is what's called that you can swap between them on the fly, and they all keep DK's moveset, right? It's not like when you become a Bananza form, you have, you know, you suddenly can't do roll jumps or anything. Like, for the most part, you can do everything you can do as base DK in these Bananza forms, which I think is really cool, because then you just want to sit in those forms. The music is awesome, story is good, and guys, I think it is time, just, you know what, let's get right into it in 3, 2, 1. Bro, are you fucking kidding me with that ending, bro? Are you kidding me? I know I'm not meant to skip to the ending, but holy fucking shit. The Void Co swap into, you know, King K. Rool has to be the rawest moment, one of my favorite moments of a stream ever. That shit took me by surprise, because by the time you get to the end of the game, I almost like lost hope for K. Rool. I wasn't even thinking about K. Rool anymore, right? But it's so obvious looking back when you see like the giant golden belly is just there as the wishing thing. But holy shit, I gotta say, like, Void Co as a group, right, first and foremost, are so fucking cool. Like Grumpy Kong, like his interactions with you as DK as like a rival, Poppy Kong basically like having a whole story segment with you, right, where she quits and then you find her in like a later layer and she's trying to help you escape, right? And then Void Kong being one of the rawest designs they've ever made for DK. I love his voice. He's very, like, you know, aggressive, and he's just pure evil in a fun way. Like, he's so cool. I hope we see more of him, because I thought he died after that thing happened with K-Rool, but you know, if you go back to the post game, some of the characters tell you like he just kind of like went away to do something. But holy shit, man, that entire end sequence genuinely, and I mean genuinely, elevated this game from like a 9 to like a 10. Like, that part is so fucking awesome because it keeps going. You beat Void Kong, K. Rool shows up. You basically get a whole extra layer, which is like the planet's core, right? Where you're, you know, trying to chase him down, and you get all the different Kremlings and different characters from across the series. You even get like the bees from the original games, and they all keep like the weird eye shapes of these characters. Like, they did such a good job of honoring like original Donkey Kong Country stuff with this ending, you know. And K. Rool is so fucking cool, dude, all the way up to the part where like you go up the New Donk City, right? And like you're even doing that whole tower cloud. Like it is so cool. I was losing my mind. I think that stuff is so important. And to me, like I think platformers that care about being cinematic is good. You know, that's something I've always loved about Sonic, is they've made sure their endings and end games and all this stuff have always been like hype and cinematic. And that's something like, you know, a lot of Nintendo games, platformers especially, have not really succeeded in until recently. So I'm glad that they're continuing to follow that structure. But obviously, you know, I'm skipping ahead here. I do want to talk a little bit more about the layers in the game, right? Because there are a lot of layers. I think there's about 15. The game almost like keeps going. Every time you think the game is kind of like about to wrap up, you kind of keep going, you know? So really off the top of my head, Lagoon Layer, which is the base one, I thought was really cool. I thought it's a very beautiful starting area, addicting, really cool. Hilltop Layer, which is the second one, that one's okay. Like I thought that one was kind of too empty fieldy. I could have used a bit more meat on that one. The next one is the Canyon Layer, and Canyon Layer is so fucking good. That one is like the first like really big area of the game where you get like multiple sub layers, and it almost keeps going, and you're like, damn, like you're just kind of going exploring using the different minecarts. I thought that area was really good. You have then the Divide, which is sort of just like a little hub area where you get to choose between the Freezer Layer and Forest. And Freezer and Forest layers were really dope. I really like how, you know, you go get the ostrich in the Forest Layer, which I thought was cool, and I love the little bit they do with the hotel. That stuff is really cool, right? And you get that sick boss fight. I think one of the coolest boss fights is the one from the Forest Layer where you fight that giant like plant being that you have to like actually climb up. I thought that was super cool. The Freezer Layer was okay. It definitely has that thing, you know, where like it has lava with the ice, which is not new. Sometimes the lava could be annoying, but the area itself is really good. You have the Junction, which is basically just like a ground for the big first boss fight with Void Kong, which I thought was really cool. I like that it had you having, you know, chasing him through different areas, that it was like pretty cinematic and cool. You have then the Resort Layer. Oh my god, Resort Layer, how I love you, bro. You immaculate. I always love summer vibes, but this one had that cool mechanic where you could basically grab these chunks of rocks and, you know, you float up with them, and it just led to a lot of cool platforming segments where like you're using one floating block to get to another one. You're suddenly like in the sky, and it's really good. Destroying things there is so satisfying because you're seeing like all the fruit chunks blow up. I thought that layer was super good. The next one we have is the Tempest Layer. Tempest Layer is a little too depressing for my look. You know, I get the idea they're going to go for, but like it felt a little generic look wise, right? But that is where you get the banana for the elephant Bananza form, which is the first like hidden from the marketing one. And that one, man, what a satisfying power up, bro. I mean, you are literally just sucking up all the terrain, and yeah, it does mess with the performance a little bit, like, you know, when you're destroying everything. But man, that form is satisfying as hell. That is the most Kirby ass form that they've ever had in the game, but it's so good, you know what I mean? It was so fun to even upgrade, you know. And I love how like it has the double layer of like, not only do you suck up everything around you, but what you suck up becomes something that you can press ZR and just hold, so you have a structure to hold, and that like opens up a whole other layer of, you know, how you access different areas and collectibles. Like sometimes you suck up a certain terrain, you would use that terrain to get through a wall. I thought that stuff was really clever, and so I thought the Tempest Layer was pretty cool overall. The most boring one I think was the Landfill Layer, right? This is basically a layer where you're just smashing through the ground, which I guess they wanted like a layer that like was just, hey, go underground and smash things. There's still some things to do in it, but for the most part, it was kind of, let's like, just go break stuff. And I was like, okay. You have the Racing Layer, which is the one with Diddy and Dixie. Again, this one was really fun. There is more stuff to do in it in the post game, but I would have liked if that kingdom had like a lot more to it, because Diddy and Dixie are so cool, right? And it was so cool seeing them and seeing them mention, you know, Donkey Kong Country, and even them saying like we're his best friends. Like stuff like that was really cool, but I just wish they had a little bit more to do, you know, with Rampy or with even them in those missions, instead of just kind of like one race and move on. You have then what I consider, you know, the pre like finale layer, the Radiance Layer. This is the one where you get the Snake Bananza form, and honestly, Snake Bananza, it's okay. You know, I think I ended up liking it a bit more the more I ended up playing it, but it's the one form that I think breaks the rule, right? All the other Bananza forms, you had access to DK's full regular moveset in it, right? Which you kind of do in the snake form, but in the snake form, you're bouncing constantly, so it's kind of annoying, right? And you have this like slowdown gimmick where you can hold Y to slow things down, which I thought was pretty good. So I think the more I ended up using the snake form, the more I liked it. But again, this layer like was also kind of boring visually. You're just kind of in a cave, right? I like the idea they were going with. You had these chunks you could grab that were light chunks, and those made so that you could light the caves. They had little snake NPCs, very rare like design, but for the most part, like it was okay. You know, I think that's my problem with the game is like there are definitely layers that I felt like could have been fleshed out or just like better visually. Because like I said, I mean already like Radiant Slayer is kind of boring visually. Tempest Slayer is a little too dark visually. Again, the hilltop layer, there was nothing really going on. Like there's definitely layers that like didn't stand out to me, but one that was really cool was the groove layer. This is the one where Pauline gets taken away from you, which, dude, by the way, I gotta say the relationship between DK and Pauline is so adorable. Like I genuinely love them. I think they're super cute. I love what they do with them. Like it's just it's adorable. It's fantastic, and I want more of that in the future because they just work so perfectly well. And I know a lot of people are trying to figure out what the timeline stuff is. It seems to be that her grandma was the one that like DK kidnapped. You know what I mean? Because it seems to me that like she mentions her grandma in the game, which might be Lady, who was the original lady they kidnapped, and maybe she had a lady, the original like lady had a daughter, and that daughter was the one that the DK, you know, was kidnapping when she grew up. I don't know. It's weird. It's stupid. There's definitely some things people are still trying to question, but it's very clear that like this is right before Odyssey because of the new Donk City stuff. And so whatever else happened in the past is probably a different, you know, Pauline or something. Layer I really love, by the way, that's near the end of the game is the feast layer. This layer is so good. It's like everything is themed around food. It has a gimmick that I'm not necessarily a fan of, which is like you have these like ugly blocks of green that you have to use, you know, a salt thing to toss at. You can only use like a salt block to toss at and break. So that was kind of like an annoying mechanic, but for the most part, exploring that layer was super fun. Destroying the food all around it. You had these Minecraft sections and mine carting sections and everything that I thought was really good. And then yeah, you kind of get to the end game, right? Like the Forbidden / Planet Core, which is all the end game stuff. And man, dude, like all the end game stuff was just so good. You know, the lead up to Void Kong, that fight with Void Kong, even then it was like really difficult, right? And then obviously the K. Rool battle being so raw. And oh my, dude, when you get to the final, dude, oh my God. When you're in New Donk City and you're seeing all the ads and it's all, dude, even the buildup of like when, you know, you're going upwards with all the bananas, right? And you think it's the end and like fucking K. Rool pulls up with a like the new version of Gangplank Galleon, which is so good, right? And then you get to the new version of New Donk that he's taken over because he used his wish, and all the ads are K. Rool themed and everything, and you have all like the references of different Kongs, but oh my God, that part is so fucking cool. It's so cinematic. And then, dude, you fight him in the arena from DK64, and he has this raw form where he's the fucking king of rot, you know. And a lot of people are saying it's actually a play on Melania, who's what, like I think she's like the goddess of rot or something. And I thought that was super fucking cool. And that entire fight is so difficult, but it's so good, man. His design is sick. He has the giant gun back. Like they honored like how the boss fights with him in the past were, while making something new and fresh. And again, they care about these cool moments. And obviously, like Pauline throughout the game, like I love how you see her open up more and more, right? Like it's a character that like at first she's a little nervous to sing, but the more Bananza forms you get, the more she opens up and likes singing in front of people, right? I love the end game image of her, you know, just playing a little guitar in New Donk City, right? Obviously, as she's gonna grow up there. But and then yeah, so I, like I said, I really like the layers. I don't know if they are as good as some of the areas in Odyssey. Like I still think like that old Samurai Kingdom from Odyssey was peak. New Donk City in Odyssey is peak. I still think like I guess Luncheon and Feast Layer are kind of pretty much the same thing, right? But I think like maybe they're equal in terms of their areas, right? But Cascade Kingdom is still pretty magical. I don't know. I think this game has great areas that are super fun, but it definitely lacks some sort of memory aspect, especially one thing that definitely disappointed me a bit, and that was the post game, right? I'm a big fan of in platformers if post games give you like a new area to explore, and I felt like this game didn't do that, and this game blue balls you, right? And again, there's a spoiler part, but dude, so when you beat the game, right, Pauline, goes back to New Donk City. You separate your ways. It's a sad, it's an emotional moment, right? And then, you go back to the first area, Ingot Isle, or even before. Is it Ingot Isle? What's the first area called? Yeah, Ingot Isle. And there's more moons and bananas for you to get. And then you get Pauline back, right? But Pauline says like, hey, I'm trying to write a song, right? I'm about to perform in front of the city, right? And I was like, oh, shit. Like, we are going to see her learn, Jump Up Superstar, right? Like, this is how she learns the song. So you end up doing these Bananza challenges. You go back to each of the elders, right? And each elder, does a challenge for you. And those challenges, I'm not gonna lie to you, like they were meant to be hard mode challenges. Some of them were funner than others. I despised the elephant one. I thought that one was by far the worst ones. The other ones were like pretty fun for the most part. I think the zebra one was also really frustrating, but the other ones were pretty good. But you do all of these, right? And then you go to like the final challenge, which is like, meant to be like, oh, use all your powers type challenge. I thought that challenge was pretty good. It wasn't anything crazy, but and I'm like, all right, I beat it, right? And I'm about to see her perform Jump Up Superstars, or at least, a motif of it, right? Or at least see a cutscene or something. It hits you with a PNG. You get hit with PNG, her standing at City Hall, with the fit, at least, and DK just standing up there. And I was like, are you kidding me, bro? Like, come on, man. We were right at the finish line. Right? Why'd you have to fumble? I thought I was at least going to be able to walk around like maybe the rooftop of New Donk City while she performs, right? Or something. I feel like that would have been such a cool, unlockable thing. But instead, you're just kind of hit with a PNG. And I was like, oh, like, that's a little disappointing, right? And so, like, compared to Odyssey's endgame, where, like, each kingdom got, like, a shit ton of new moons, you got the Mushroom Kingdom of all places. I would have loved somebody like that with DK. Like, give me, like, DK Island from 64 to Walker. Give me something, right, where I'm like, oh, shit, this is awesome. Give me, like, a DK 64 skin or something. Whoa, DK 64 skin, whoa. But yeah, I felt like the post game could have been a little bit rewarding. You do get, a new skill tree unlocked for each of the Bonanza forms where you can make everything gold. And like I said, there's still bananas I'm getting, and I still enjoy playing the game, right? So that's fine. But I just felt like, post game could have been a little cooler in that sense. But yeah, I've been yapping a lot about the game, right? And I think for me, I ended up really adoring the game. I think it's fantastic. I think it's, in terms of music, it's super good. In terms of, how much there is to do, it's super good. In terms of movement, in terms of platforming, there's challenge rooms, there's the basic challenges. I think it's the most they've cared about these stories in one of these platformers, bro. Like, this shit hit, bro. And I think, it's always nice to get a platformer that hits at the heart, right? And I feel like this game has so much heart. It has so much polish. I think the destruction mechanics are super good. They're super satisfying. But there's something it's lacking. And like I said, I think it might be a culmination of little things. I think it is the bosses being like baby mode easy. I think it's some of the layers not standing out too much. I think it's the end game not being as, satisfying as it could be. Like, it's the little stuff like that that puts it a bit under Odyssey for me in terms of which I like more. But I really do think this is damn close. I mean, this is a phenomenal platformer still, like through and through. I think in terms of its movement, its gameplay, its variety, its amount of content, like they did a good job with it, man. I love this game. I'm gonna want to replay it. I'm gonna want to go back and get all the remaining bananas I'm missing. I think it's super satisfying, and it's a game that Donkey Kong needed, because when it comes to Donkey Kong, right, it's always been so interesting that if you think about name-wise, right, what are the most iconic video game character names? Like, Donkey Kong is like up there, but Donkey Kong hasn't been treated like that in so long. You know, Donkey Kong is in everything. He's always part of the marketing, the branding, and everything. But, you know, he had one Tropical Freeze like 10 years ago, and people weren't even like happy about him being in a 2D game again. But that game is phenomenal, right? But so to give him the main team's, you know, project and work for this, I think is super fucking cool, you know, and I think that shit is satisfying. I think it's important to care about hype moments. I think it's important to have a great platforming structure. I think it's important to give a shit about DK and making him distinct from, you know, other characters. Like I said, even though this game is an Odyssey sequel through and through, I think they do a damn good job of setting DK to be different, right? In terms of his moveset, in terms of his attacks, in terms of his unlockables. Like, I think they did a damn good job of setting itself apart. Again, there's small things that bother me, but for the most part, when I think about the ending, when I think about the journey, when I think about all the fun I had, when I think about how addicting it is to break things, platform things, how difficult some of the challenges could be, I was like, damn, that is a fucking incredible game, man. I love that shit. But that's really it for the most part. I really love the game. Let me know, of course, guys, in the comment section below what you thought about Donkey Kong Bonanza. What would you like to see potentially in a sequel of the game? Do you think it's going to get a sequel, or do you think this is like a very much Odyssey thing where we get some small DLC and then they dip? Let me know in the comment section below. I love you. Thank you all for watching. You're the best. And of course, I'll see you all next time. Peace out.